Rugby World Cup 2021, folks. We are another 6 games into the tournament. We've got some teams lined up in the quarterfinals already. We'll go through these games pretty quickly. Some stats and standings and whatnot, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how the second round went. Kind of predictable, I would say. Teams that won were probably the favourites. I mean, I've got a Super pool going for the Women's World Cup, and I picked every result correctly, and 4 of the 6 I picked with a margin. So if I can pick them, it must have been kind of relatively predictable. But that being said, some of them were proper grandstanding finishes and maybe a bit closer than we expected. The first one, Scotland and the Wallaroos. It's a 2-point game. It's got red cards. It's got a big turnaround because Scotland were 12 points up in this game, 12-0. The Wallaroos come back in the second half, score a couple of tries. Tarita gets another one. The Scots, their maul, isn't it? Their maul was huge, but Tarita gets another one. So it's 3 tries in 2 games for her. And Masters, who later gets a red card, manages to power through to put the Wallaroos or level, and then the kick puts them in front. But, late red cards put the pressure on the Wallaroos, and yet they still manage to hold on. So they keep themselves alive. They are 1-1, having won 1, lost 1, second in Pool A. They dominated the possession, did the Wallaroos, the run meters, the offloads. But Scotland, like I said, their maul, their territory, did pretty well. I mean, Grace Hamilton, 7 defenders beaten for the number 8 for the Wallaroos is a pretty good shift. Wassell, the lock, has 21 tackles for Scotland. Also not a bad shift. But, for Scotland, it's heartbreak again. They've still got their 1 game to go, and it's up against New Zealand. And based on what they've done in their game, that could be a pretty tough ask. But they've been good value for their first 2 games. And obviously, you never know. Anything can happen in a World Cup. So they'll put their best foot forward for that final game. But it seems like an uphill battle. And for the Aussies, they've got a game against Wales, which is going to be an absolute fascinating one. I reckon that game and one other will be the pick of the watchers next week. But for mine, Wales and Australia next week is going to be, that's going to be a really, really important game. The second one, the USA over Japan. USA going to get expected win 30 points to 17. Maybe not in the manner expected. Like the lead changes 3 times. The Japanese go in front with a nice line-out set play early. But, I mean, Kitlinski's got wheels, the hooker for the USA. And then it's really the last 20 minutes where the USA kind of push the score out to make it pretty comfortable. That being said, Imakugi, the winger, did get maybe the try of the game with some kind of shimmying steps and beating some defenders to kind of finish things off for the Japanese. But, the US ultimately too good in that one. Japanese tackling percentage was like 81, which is just a bit too low. But Imakugi beats 5 defenders. Kelter also beats 5 defenders and kicks her goals. So, onwards and upwards, I guess, for the USA. But they've got Canada in their final game. They're 3rd in the pool at the moment, and that's going to be a massive game. I think that and the Aussie-Wales game are probably the 2 games to watch. Aussie-Wales and then USA-Canada in terms of how even or not they may be. But we'll kind of have to wait and see. Japan, 4th in the pool, having not managed to win from their first 2, but as I said, pretty decent value. The third game of the Saturday was France and England, certainly the biggest billing of the 6 games this weekend, really. Probably my least favourite, personally. I thought as a neutral it was kind of a bit of a tough watch. I mean, as much as I really enjoyed watching France just tackle the house down, England, I don't feel like they fired all their shots. They're keeping the powder dry, surely, for the knockout stages. England have got more in them than what they showed, like 67% possession, 70% territory, and they didn't really manage to break down that French defence effectively. But I mean, I guess you got to give credit to the French defence, and I mean, 1 clean break, 1 try for the French. They were trying to hit them on a counter, and they managed it once. So England will be a little bit concerned, I guess, about how French hardly had any chances to strike, but when they did, they managed it effectively. 31 kicks from the French in this game and 33 from the English, but I don't think the kicking was all that high value, A lot of the stuff straight down the throat. So, if you guys are English or French, you probably loved it because it was an edge of your seat. One goes right down to the wire. It's a proper Le Crunch. It's not like a 80-point game. But, as a neutral, like I mentioned, Not my favourite game of the weekend, just personally, but still, I do think those are probably the two best teams in the comp. But also the Black Ferns have just put 50 points on, so they're in the conversation as well as the Canadians. But still, England and France, two pretty bloody good teams. Mayan's 28 tackles is phenomenal from the French, and there were multiple French tacklers in the 20s. So, yeah, pretty crazy shift from them. England are first in Pool C, France are second, and they've got Fiji and South Africa in their final game. So both of those sides should probably romp home in those final games. As I said, you can never count your chickens, but all things considered, they should. So, yeah, those two sides should be pretty well comfortably through. England's already through. But, yeah, that was your Saturday. Sunday, Canada over Italy. Get the job done by 10 points, 22 points to 12. Italy have the first say, like within 30 seconds. Their fullback gets a try. And they got the late try when Canada had a yellow card to kind of make the scoreboard look a little bit closer. But Canada didn't really look like losing this one. Their forwards converted pressure into points. Their maul still looks really deadly, which concerns me kind of as a Black Ferns supporter. But I mean, they made Italy make double the tackles. I think Italy made 200. Canada was like 90-something. So, and Canada's defense, though, was a little bit lackluster. 76% is among the lowest of the teams this week. So, they've certainly got stuff to work on. But this is one of those games that could have been a bit tighter because Italy was certainly good value when they bounced back against the US last week. But, Canada, as I said, never really looked like losing it. They are first in Pool C. Italy are still second. Canada, like I mentioned, have got the USA, which should be a really great game. And Italy got Japan. Japan are winless, so Italy should be looking to win that one. But, yeah, we'll kind of have to wait and see. So that's a really interesting pool, that one, to see who's going to go through. And then, the Black Ferns, goodness me, 56 points to 12. But I said the maul is concerning. Wales scored 2 tries. They both come from the maul. So when and if the Black Ferns end up taking on an England or a Canada or a France, I know what area I'd be targeting if I was the opposition up against the Black Ferns. I mean, the Black Ferns have still got some bloody good skills. Line breaks galore. Offloads galore. 49 defenders beaten is among the most you will ever see in any game. That's just crazy. How many of them were Woodman? I should have counted, but it was a lot. But still far from perfect. I mean, the Black Ferns conceded 17 penalties. They had yellow cards. Wayne Smith was notably very displeased with the way the discipline was. I mean, Wales had 8 the entire game, penalties conceded. So, but I mean, Wales also tackled at 72%. So, yeah, neither side's going to be fully, pleased with how things went. But it's hard to be too displeased with 56-12. The Black Ferns just have got absolute game breakers all through their back line. First in Pool A, they're going to go through, but still, I do worry. I do worry if they're going to come up against one of the big Northern Hemisphere packs, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Wales are still third in Pool A, and like I mentioned, they've got the Aussies this week, so that's going to be a really fascinating one. New Zealand with Scotland should be looking to go 3 from 3, but still got to get that done. The final game was Fiji against South Africa, 21-17. And I think it was last week that was the final game of the round that was the most exciting one, right? I think this one is the most exciting of any of the games this weekend. It comes down to like 2 lead changes in the last kind of 3 minutes. It's a crazy grandstanding finish. I mean, Fiji scoring early when South Africa got a yellow card through their winger, kind of very stereotypical Fijian try, but then the South African midfielder, wasn't it Mpuna? I forget her name, I should have written it down, but I mean, she scored a try from just loose ball out of nowhere. Like just a pass to the grass, which is sometimes enough to make the defenders kind of hesitate, and she just took any hesitation and took it all the way to the bank, man. Really, really good try. South Africa, as I mentioned, took the lead in like the 78th minute with a penalty to put themselves 17-14 up, but then about a minute later, Fiji managed to score a try, really quick ball, so a crazy, crazy finish. Very exciting stuff. I mean, 805 run meters from the Fijians and 464 from South Africa. The fact that 464 is the losing run meter total and it's like well below the other team is pretty crazy. But that being said, both teams' tackling percentage is pretty low. Both teams' line-up percentage is pretty low. But these are 2 developing teams, so Certainly a good experience for them to play each other and just get that a little bit better. South Africa, I mentioned, have England, and Fiji got France. So going to be tough for them in their final games. They're third and fourth in the pool with France and England, so it was always going to be a pretty tough ask. But like I mentioned, good experience if nothing else. Happy days, folks. Let us know your thoughts on the way this second week of Rugby World Cup 2021 fixtures go. I should know, like, if you look on YouTube, if you just type in rugby, it starts to give you the kind of like predicted, search results. Like, I can tell you, Rugby World Cup 2021 is not among the top search results. Rugby World Cup 2022 is being searched a lot more. Women's World Cup 2022 is also being searched more than like Rugby World Cup 2021. So I know it's the 2021 tournament being played in 2022, but yeah, sometimes someone's banging. Not that practical. Anyway, I'm going to go. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.